Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Federico Ast, the founder and CEO of Kleros, and we've already done one in Spanish, and now we're going to do one in English. And I think it's really important because I really want to dig into Kleros and what it is and the philosophy behind it. We had a great conversation in Spanish last time, but now in my native language, really excited to go deeper into it. Welcome back.
Thank you, Stuart, for having me again. I'm
Yep.
excited about this conversation.
So last time we were talking about disputas, democracia, un país nuevo, muchas cosas, but we're gonna go into English this time. And I really want to dial into what happened and what is happening since we last talked in Mendoza, because you guys were running a pilot program in Mendoza, right?
Yes, so Kleros is a dispute resolution system that you can use for lots of different things. Some of those things are Web3 disputes. Others are like a real world disputes. And one of the pilots we are currently running is with the government of Mendoza. We made an agreement with the Supreme Court where we are starting to use Kleros as a consultative method for disputes happening in a region of Mendoza called La Valle, which is a municipality, and there is a small claims court that is starting to use Kleros for getting advice on disputes by our jury. So it's not binding, but it's a really great way to test how this works with a real life, real world cases. And we have run a bunch of pilots now. One is about a car accident. I mean, who was at fault in the accident? And the other one was a consumer type of dispute about a credit card fraud. So this is going really well, and excited to bring all of these things to this new ecosystem.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So basically, what you're doing is you're having the context of the court case being a run through Kleros in sort of and this is, I've been doing a lot of research in the United States about how our system works, and I'm not an expert at all, but I know that there's like, we've got a 13th court, we've got appellate courts, and then one of the courts is basically just to give commentary. And so commentary seems to be a really important part of the legal process. What did I get wrong there? What did I get right? Is that accurate? And maybe what is the relationship to Argentina?
I mean, I'm not an expert in the U.S. legal system, so I cannot really comment on that. But uh, you know, over time, justice systems and legal systems got the use of technology for assisting. So at the beginning, you had to, even to go to file a case in court, you had to just physically go to the court and fight. So now you have online platforms, and then it's easier. So why cannot you use also the digital tools to not just improve the ease of accessing the filing a case, but also the accuracy and speed of the decision-making process to improve the inclusion to justice. So what we have found with Kleros is that for the test cases we've done, the pilots we've done, a case that used to take the small claims court 2 years could be solved in just a couple of days in Kleros,
Wow.
right? So imagine how this could help to ease the backlog of lots of court cases and legal systems. The US has a advanced legal system, but think countries, emerging economies, where the small claims courts are sometimes non-existent, sometimes highly corrupt, and this can be a tool of transparency and access to justice for lots of people around the world.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm looking on Perplexity right now. How do small claims courts work in Argentina? Um, okay, satisfy consumers' pecuniary claims and handle minor disputes, mediation, alternative dispute resolution, accessibility. And I'm going to go do later some more investigation on the Argentine legal system in the same way that I've been doing in the United States, because it's such a fascinating thing. And what I love about what you guys are doing is you're trying to combine not only the technology world, but this abstract legal world as well with real life. And that's in crypto, the with real life is so missing from a lot of things, right? It's not, there's like this abstract value that's transferring, but what about the real life and this legal system? So from there, if you have anything to comment on that, please feel free. But otherwise, I would love to hear how this Mendoza piece fits into the rest of Kleros.
I think it has a lot to do with my personal story. So I decided to make a project in crypto, not because I was like a crypto person who wanted to like just retrofit any problem, into trying to build some crypto app. My story is I was a person with from like emerging economy from Argentina who had like lots of face to problems with access to justice, problems with the financial system. So that's what got me into crypto was real world problems that me and all of my fellow Argentinians also had to face. So crypto and blockchain, Web3, as we call it now, it was a good tool to solve this problem of inclusion into justice in a context where this was not done well by traditional institutions. So my start as an entrepreneur in this space was done through me trying to solve a real life problem, and the crypto was a tool for that. Unfortunately, that's not the case of a lot of people who start the crypto projects, that they just want to do some crypto and then try to do like a retrofit into some problem. It's interesting because when I spent some time in 2016 in Silicon Valley at a place called Singularity University. It's an innovation like a research center, and one of the things that they always insist us was you have to start building your project from the problem you want to solve and not from the technology you want to use. So that is why for me the focus was always put into the problem to solve. And what was the question again?
So no, this is good. So basically, so how does it fit into Kleros? So you've got the test case of developing this sort of context around a court case, and how does that fit into the larger Kleros platform?
Yeah, so the largest Kleros platform is meant to be a very flexible tool that you can use to resolve all kinds of disputes. So in the early days of Kleros, what we were thinking a bit is, okay, there's going to be an economy built on, decentralized Uber, decentralized Airbnb, decentralized e-commerce. So, and these platforms will need some way to resolve disputes, because if it's a decentralized platform, you should not be resolving this through, a team, the team of the project, because that's kind of a centralized point of failure. Can you use the crowds or peers to resolve those disputes? And if you want to go that way, how do you properly build a system for those peers to work together in a way that is not easy to corrupt, and in a way that is not easy to manipulate, etc. So in the early days, we were thinking that the Web3 economy would be growing way faster than what it has, because everyone, when we started in 2017,
2017,
we were thinking
okay, interesting. Yeah, 2017 was a very, very interesting time. So yeah, from that point, it set like all the ICOs, it was just like, okay, we're headed. And then like crypto and Bitcoin they are the hardest thing to predict outside of the weather in Buenos Aires. The weather in Buenos Aires is the harder to predict outside of that. But so you're starting in 2017 and you're thinking it's going to go big. And then what happened after that? I would love to get into history.
So I still have my hypothesis is still that this is going to happen. I mean, it may take longer than expected, but I still think that this is going to be the way of the future. But I mean, you cannot be all the time just waiting for something to happen in life in general. So also, as we saw that the Web3 economy was growing slower than what we expected, we started also to see, okay, how can you use Kleros in the real world scenarios, right? So how can you use it for consumer claim? How can you use it for small neighborhood disputes? And the thing is that there was also like a big restriction that was coming from technology, in the sense that the consumer claims or small value disputes are like over like $100, $1,000 maybe. But Ethereum, which was it
Yeah.
still is the blockchain on which Kleros is built. I mean, was super expensive to use, so you had to face very high, transaction fees to resolve a small, claim. So that was the economics were not there. So that was a big element that wasn't stopping us. And also, there is another thing. Kleros is based on game theory and based on economic incentives. It's a system that we developed, which is very well sophisticated. But the system was a bit too rigid to resolve real world disputes. And let me give you like examples. So, for example, Kleros was meant to be like more like a binary tool to solve disputes between like Alice and Bob and yes or no. But lots of the disputes happening in the real world are not that clear cut. So you have sometimes it's like Alice is right 75% and Bob 25%. So you have to split, the money, not just one. So it's more complicated. Sometimes you have ranked options. Sometimes you have different situations that Kleros at the beginning was not able to handle. So lots of what we did in the first years of the project was to try to make the protocol more flexible, to try to address all of the real life situations that people wanted us to solve. So making it cheaper, like we launched a few months ago a new version of Kleros and Arbitrum and L2, which is like super cheap to use, and making more sophisticated logic for making decisions based on soulbound tokens and based on different parties, not just binary. So all of the time we worked on these years was in tweaking the protocol to make it more flexible to address all of it. So we have a quite important research team, and if you look on Google, there's lots of papers written by us, but also by third parties, also by lots of lawyers asking questions about, is this legal? Is it not legal? Under what conditions it can be used? Is this arbitration or mediation? So there's already a community which some people who are like deep into the crypto world, they don't see because they are like not in the legal space. But for example, a few days ago, Kleros was chosen as one of the top 30 legal tech companies in France. So that is invisible to the blockchain, bros who are just into the crypto
into the meme coins, the meme coins,
into the meme coins. So yeah, so this is why I think. I mean, maybe everyone thinks the same about their project, but I mean, this is why I think Kleros is a bit different to most projects on the blockchain industry.
I love it, and like I for a long time I've recognized that our current attention medium is very, very faulty, and there's a large philosophical thing we could go down, and I believe you're into philosophy as well. So there's it has to do with the changing nature of the media that we consume and the way the media is. We're coming out, particularly in the United States. I don't know enough about Argentina to say whether it was happening here as well, but in the United States, we basically had the TV that was telling us what was true. And then we shifted to social media, and all of a sudden anybody could say what was true. And so it created this, like, we're still in that transition period where everybody has voice, everybody can say whatever they want, which ties right back into what you're saying. And so for crypto specifically, I think it's going to grow. We're going to grow out of it because there's only so much you can do with just focusing attention on non-important things. And it's fun. Like it's fun, it's fun. It's like memes and art, and like there is that creative aspect that we should honor in this thing as well, but it's also a lot of nonsense. And so and with Crazy Wisdom, I really focus on finding people who are doing these crazy things in these fields that are multidisciplinary, because that's really where it's gonna come from. So, and let's go into, I love that you guys created a system on Arbitrum that was more flexible, specifically at this point of anybody can say what is true. How do you determine what is true with a group in consensus, but not consensus in the blockchain sense, but consensus in like subjective, this is what people are trying to figure out. And so it reminded me, I rented a car recently in California, And California has taught me a lot about the systems in the United States that are falling apart in many ways. I've had crazy trouble with insurance. My roof collapsed, and it took two years of just nightmare trying to navigate the system for insurance. And so when I rented the car, I was like, okay, I'm going to do as much due diligence on this car rental process and figure out what happens if I get in an accident. And so I looked in California, and they have a crazy system where they try to determine who's at fault. But sometimes, like, it's shared fault, like you said, in Argentina as well. And so I won't go into the details that I found here because they're not specific to what I was just saying. But let's go into consensus building in a group of people. What does Kleros allow people to do in terms of building that consensus? And if I got that wrong, please let me know.
Yeah, so the basic structure of Kleros, the pure version that we launched in the very early days, was purely a token-based system that you want to be a juror into like cases, and then you buy the token and you deposit the token, you stake it into the court where you have the right type of expertise, insurance for roofs or car injuries or whatever, and then you are drawn based on the tokens that you deposit, and then you have the right to vote. And you have all of an incentive system based on you agreeing with the consensus of the community about what is the right the decision for the case. And this is based on, Schelling point, game theory stuff. So that was the original version of Kleros, and it's still the underlying and basic logic with which it works. But over time, we also started learning that, sometimes people don't want any random person from the internet to just buy a token and be a juror, even if though the system was thought in order to prevent attacks like conflicts of interest, stuff like that. Dispute resolution, justice, legal systems are like a very traditional institution about which people have lots of ideas that they get from, the way they were educated, the way what they see on the movies, about what most of the people know how the legal system works based on movies, 12 Angry Men or stuff like that. And they don't, people that don't know much more about the legal system. So sometimes people want the jurors to be drawn only between people from their own community. Let's say you have a DAO and you have disputes in the DAO and you use Kleros. And you want only people who are part of your DAO to be eligible as jurors. So that was not possible in the early days of Kleros because there was no way to verify an identity and make sure that that person is a unique person. So we built an app called Proof of Humanity that is an anti-civil registry. And now Vitalik, after that, Vitalik and Glenn Weil and Pooja Oliver, they write this paper proposing the soul-bound tokens. So now, combining all of these elements, you have, a way more powerful system. Now you can, you have a dispute in your DAO, or it could be in Mendoza province or in California.
Yeah.
So only people who have the soul-bound token that says that they are, members of the DAO are eligible as jurors. So now this is seen as way more legitimate because people in the US, they are not used to a guy from Mongolia and China be jurors in cases in the US, right? So this way to build the courts on soul-bound tokens and proof of identity is something that was not possible at the early days, and now it is possible, and this makes the use cases of Kleros exponentially, larger than what it was possible before.
The proof of humanity is key. So can you mentioned something that Vitalik did in terms of a token or something like that? What was that token?
Yeah, it's called soul-bound token or SBT.
Soul-bound token. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah,
interesting.
It is based on, I think the word comes from the video games. There are some stuff in video games that you could not transfer. So the soul-bound token is like an NFT, but that you can't transfer to any other person. There is this institution that issues the SBT to you, and this could be a diploma. This could represent your skills to resolve in insurance. So now you are accredited as a guy who knows about insurance, and now you are eligible. This can represent you belonging to, Arbitrum DAO or to Kleros DAO or to whatever DAO. So now you having that token is that your credential, to enter that court. So all of that was not possible before. Now it is.
But you guys built your own identity system, proof of humanity on top of this token, or did you combine these things?
It's first you build the identity system, and then after you have the identity, you can send the tokens to an identity, and then.
Got it. Interesting. Okay, so the group itself can determine who is part of the group by allowing for this token.
Exactly. I mean, we could imagine. I mean, we make the DAO, and the DAO issues like 10 tokens to each of us that represents our belonging to that particular DAO.
Cool.
And if someone wants to enter a DAO, maybe there's going to be a vote needed, and they have to make their submission, and then we vote if we want to accept the person as a member or not, and then majority, but only those who have the token can vote on that election.
Are you using this with the Kleros team itself? Are you guys using this internally?
No, not yet, but now we are starting to think about building a DAO based on the different tools that we have built over the years. You can use that identity system, and then so it's, in some way you can say like it's the beginning of what I call the Kleros Republic, the Kleros Digital Republic, where you have this digital jurisdiction where you have some identity document that is submitted to people who are members. And it's like building a new, as they call it now, network state, if you want, and based on these ideas.
I really like this, the Kleros Digital Republic. Okay, so we got an identity system. I just did a great interview with the people from Maitri yesterday, and Maitri, they're going to come down in March to Buenos Aires. And they're working on a lot of, I don't think it's at all like the same thing that you guys are working on, but we were talking about very similar things of essentially like proof of identity, proof of reputation, like how, like it's just, we need it, right? Because of AI. AI is going to, can AI hack the SOL token or the identity system? Have you tested it against AI agents yet or anything like that?
So that is a really good question, and that is where reality starts to connect to science fiction movies. So proof of humanity, this registry we built, is intended to prove that some identity address, some Ethereum address belongs to a human. So what do? You go to this registry and you have to make a submission to verify your address. So you have to take a picture and then send a video of you saying, I certify I'm a real human and I'm not a duplicate in this registry. And then that you have to get a vouch from someone who already belongs to the registry, that vouch that you are a real human and you are not duplicate. And then after that, anyone can challenge your registration if they think that you are either not human because you could be faking your video, or if they think that you are duplicate, right? So you have to make a deposit, and if someone challenges you, then there is going to be like a trial on Kleros, and the jury is going to decide whether you are actually human or not. And if you are not challenged, or if you win the trial, then you get the registration. Now you can receive a soulbound token certifying that, okay, this address is controlled by a human. And now you could use this to prove to anyone that this is a human address, you're not an AI agent. And then you could use this, for example, go to a Discord server and I get a badge that says, okay, verified human, Federico, okay? So this is how it's like an identity system. And this is how you can start building a system that differentiates between humans and bots, which is one of the, coming big problems of all the digital world, in the sense that what if the other guy is a bot? You don't know now. It's harder and harder to tell. So this is one of the ways to do. So this is not I mean, there are other projects that try to do this, and for us, it's like not the core thing, but you need this so you can make sure that people who are drawn into the course are humans and they are not duplicate. But they are like WorldCoin, for example, is doing something similar through different mechanisms. They do it with the retina iris scan and all people know. And there are others. So this is not the only approach. But solving the problem of identity and anti-civil registries is really important to like unlock lots of applications on blockchains.
Civil registries. What do you mean by civil registries?
A registry that can prevent civil attacks in the sense that you make the registry makes sure that one real person controls only one address. Like if I wanted to control more than one address in proof of humanity, I could try to game the system like, okay, I can put some makeup, I put a wig, and then, okay, I make another submission, and now I have like but people could challenge me, they could like run some software for face recognition and say, oh, look, this guy this woman is actually that guy, with makeup. So, and then I could be challenged for trying to game the system.
Once you're challenged, that challenge then goes through the Kleros system.
To Kleros, right? Yeah, the jury will decide whether a challenge is or is not correct. If it's correct, the challenged profile is removed, and the deposit made by that person is sent to the challenger, right?
They win money. Oh
yeah, it's like a bounty system. It's like a bounty. We call this idea like a decentralized prosecutor. There's people, bounty hunters, trying to detect duplicate profiles so they can challenge them and make money.
Cool. Okay, I love it. All right, great. Incentives. Yeah. You figured out an incentive system to determine proof of humanity. What are the most interesting court cases, not court cases, what are the most interesting DAO things that you're seeing? Like what are the most interesting things that people are coming to Kleros to try to adjudicate?
So for example, one of the big use cases that now are coming is prediction market dispute. So you have all of these prediction markets about people, trying to decide what will be the outcome of some event. And sometimes there is a dispute about whether that event happened or not. And this, depending on the outcome of this, some payouts are done differently. So there is a very famous case in Kleros. It's a really old case, I think from 2020. Remember the US election, the previous, Trump and Biden election? That there was this problem, 2020. And there was this discussion on whether, Trump didn't accept, the results. And then, so there was a prediction market done in a platform called Omen, which said, okay, you have so there's people who bet for Trump, people who bet for Biden, but since the market had to close, let's say on, I think in December 28th, but the certification of the election was only going to be done in January 6th or whatever. So the day the election, the payout had to be done, some people claimed that it was unclear that Trump had lost the election. So they said, okay, this market is invalid.
Yes.
So there was a dispute, and people were doing like very sophisticated like constitutional arguments on whether, and like they said, okay, maybe it's not certified, but but the court, things that Trump did to cancel the election were not accepted. So it's likely that in the spirit of the dispute, this really, really sophisticated arguments. Right now, there is another dispute about that in relation to election in Romania.
Yes.
Apparently.
Oh, wait. Is it on Kleros? Is it being?
It is. There is a case on Kleros coming from a prediction market called Seer that is about. So people think that some candidate won, others differently, and there is a dispute because there is subjectivity and there is matter of interpretation. So those are use cases that are like cool in the world of DAOs right now.
That is really interesting. So what I'm getting is basically there is a new niche, new market that's being established from these prediction markets that I've started to use. That is, there are these edge cases because I went on to Polymarket. I was like, I want to go start making bets on different things, and then immediately the epistemological undertaking that I was going under of like how to determine how to make the bet and all of the ways that you do that is not clear at all. And I really like this idea of incentivized groups who are going in and picking at the details and then having some sort of process feels very cool. It's very exciting. What have you learned about the nature of determining truth from falsehood as you've done this?
I think that it's like a industry where you're not going to win like a popularity prize,
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
when they lose, sometimes I mean they even have good arguments and they don't like it, and people usually will accuse people of being rigged. But that's what happens, in traditional legal system. Losing
Yeah.
parties
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
say that the judge was rigged or corrupt. So I think that um, it's very important for people not just to right, the decision made by the jury is
Yeah.
not the only thing that matters. Sometimes what matters most is that people can buy into how the decision was made,
Yeah.
and there
Yeah.
is a justification that makes sense to the losing party. Let me tell you like an example, and coming from the real world. We are working with a fintech company called Lemon, that is like a distributor solution. So they have customers, like it's like Coinbase of South America, let's say, a custodial service. People have claims against the company because they were charged for something they didn't buy, credit card stuff, for example. So the customer goes to customer service. Customer service says, you are not right. We're not going to reimburse you anything. And what does the customer do? Typically, they just go, they can go to small claims court, but nobody does that because it's very expensive,
Yeah.
it's slow.
Yeah.
People, what they do is, they just pitch against the company in
Online.
social media, don't buy from these assholes, they are scammers, And what we did with them is to rebuild
Oh.
the customer care process, in the sense that, okay, customer goes to customer service says no, but instead of the thing ending there, they offer the customer going to Kleros, and the company will abide to whatever Kleros rules,
Oh, cool.
and still the customer, if they don't like the case, the decision, they can still go to small claims court, no problem. It doesn't take away any access to justice right from them. But
That's
what happens empirically? People go to Kleros, they lose in Kleros, and they don't go to small claims court. They just accept the ruling because they see that it was done by a panel of peers. And 90% of the people who lose the case, they are still happy with the process. Imagine going to a company with a claim, the company says no, and then you lose, and then you go to this app, and then you lose again, and 90% are still happy and stay as customers of the company. So this is like a revolutionary, in some way, because
yeah. It's in
it's how
between.
people, yeah.
It's an in-between point from, and I've felt this so much over the last years, is go like get shut down by an automated system that has stolen your money. And then what can I do about that? And I probably could take them to small claims court, but I'm trying to get $50 back. Like I'm not going to go to small claims for $50. But the only other option, because it's the automated system, has blocked me from ever going to a human being, is to go online and tag them. And I really like the idea of having another option in between those things where I can adjudicate. So yeah, how if I wanted to do it, how do I would either have to be a part of a DAO that's going through decision-making processes, or I would have to have a dispute against Lemon or something else.
This is a business to business like service. So this is used by Lemon. I mean, we hope that it will start be used by other companies, but this is like for traditional companies. This is Lemon. I mean, this could be used. Another like a segment where we are working is like insurance. You know, you have a claim against the company, insurance company, because the roof fell on your head, and they say that it's not our fault, dude. So okay, then imagine the company gives you possibility of going to Kleros and then accept whatever Kleros decides. If you lose, you can still go to small claims court. You don't lose any access to justice rights.
Yeah.
But if you win, they reimburse you, like they pay you immediately. And this takes 5 days. So let's say, okay, you lose, but at least after losing, you say, okay, but this company treated me the right way. They gave me my like a day in court if you want. I got a bunch of justifications by people who are not employees of the company, who are like neutral people. And I mean, this is way better than just have an AI reject your claim and you're not getting any. So, and you know, in some way, you can see like a Twitter as the mob, you know, rule or the mob justice app of our day. You know, okay, they didn't pay you for your roof. Okay, you go to Twitter, maybe you're lucky, and this is picked up by some influencer, and then they retweet this, and then people come, you know, to your thread, and then everyone starts to see, oh, I had this problem with the company, and I had this problem, and I had this problem, and everyone has a very big list of, you know, claims against the company. And now, if I am a potential customer of the company, I will think it twice. So the damage is like a reputational
brand, yeah,
right?
Yeah. This is great. Okay, so oh man, there's a great question I had. I'm paraphrasing you on Twitter. Basically it's Twitter as mob justice arbitration when companies piss you off and you don't have any other options. It's all social media, but Twitter, for example, because it is public now. So okay, so it's really interesting. No, but how can I if I wanted to use it, I have the AI Whisperers. I have an AI Whisperers group, and I could start doing proof of humanity for them. That they are essentially get them NFTs. Does that cost me any money? Would that cost me any money?
No, no.
Mhm. So I could essentially have everybody prove that they've I could prove that it's in person, that they've come in person, right?
You can ask them, let's say you have your DAO, and you want everyone who is part of the DAO to have like a DAO ID card if you want. So first, what you want to do is to make sure that these are humans. So you tell, okay, you go to proof of humanity, register your profile, and then after that, we will issue for you a soulbound token that is like your ID of your Whisper Republic, if you want to call it that way. And then now that person has this ID with that belonging to the Republic. He's a citizen of your Republic, and then you can do governance votes, and only those who have that soulbound token are eligible to vote.
Governance. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Okay, got it. There's one question of like what type of governance, what have you learned about governance? What does governance mean, particularly in a small group of 150 people versus a larger group of like 500 or 2,000 or 20 million? But then also I want to go into where you see us going in terms of the future, because it's such a rich time right now. You know, the Chinese have the quote, "May you live in interesting times." We are living in some interesting times right now. And like, what do you think? Like, where are we headed in terms of, in my country, it feels like a lot of the institutions, a lot of the unspoken institutions, like these things that were just part of the way that we treated each other as a nation, are not there anymore. And also the actual explicit institutions are also having a lot of trouble. And I just see, you know, but like everything that happens, like we never know what's going to happen in the future. So things could tie together. And I'm not trying to say that I'm utopianist. I don't think we're headed for utopia, but where could this go in terms of civilization, particularly in the crypto, but there's an element of AI as well. but there's this crypto can solve some of the institutional problems. That's a good question. What are the problems that you're excited about in terms of crypto? We've been talking a lot about governance and Kleros and groups, but we can also go outside of it in terms of getting institutions laid so that humanity can flourish on a global population on the internet. Any thoughts there?
I think that the place to start is by thinking that our age is being defined, by a very important technology, that is the internet, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that was not possible ever before was to send, messages or information through borders in a easy, very cheap way. And then from this, everything, stems, because now, and I'm saying this, I'm Argentinian, and for us, having the internet was a really important way to have access to the world, where we were Argentina was a very closed economy, but after the internet, okay, anyone from Argentina can learn how to code or to design or to whatever, and then start selling services to the whatever other customers in the US, Germany, whatever. But you still have the problem. You can learn how to code through YouTube tutorials, but you can't be paid, because if you were paid through the banking system, capital controls. So you learned about that since you live in Argentina. The capital controls, banking fees. So let's say you sell a service for 100 and you are only paid 40. Because of all of the.
Yeah, I got it.
So, but Bitcoin helped you circumvent all of these problems. Now you are kind of a bit. So what is the other tool that you need for this? So, okay, what if the only other thing you need is a way to resolve disputes with your client from the US or Europe or whatever. Otherwise, they will not hire you. I mean, nobody is going to come from California to sue a designer for a video or for a website, in Argentine court. But if you have this escrow way through Kleros of making the agreement, then now it's possible. So this idea of the internet enabling access to information, enabling access to financial access, and to dispute resolution or governance throughout the world is redefining how communities form. Because I'm sure, and I always say this, I have more in common, with people who go to DevCon conference or that belong to crypto than to the guy who lives next door. And maybe when Argentina plays in the World Cup, we are in the same, but otherwise we have not much in common. So I think the main element is that the internet is redefining human relations, and to a point that we are starting to think, what do I care more? About my mid space of the people who I don't know much, or the online community where I interact every day. I speak to people from my team at Kleros more than I speak to anyone else in my country or my neighbors. So and then I start to ask then, what do I care more? I care more about Argentina free speech rules, or I care more about my platform free speech, because I spend more time in my platform. So it kind of, we are moving to a place where maybe what starts to become defining more of our everyday stuff is what we do in this online platform and these online communities. And this is seriously concerning. it's good for some, it's bad for others. It's good for us, people who came from emerging economies and who had we were the losers before. Now we have access in the same situation to people who are in the developed world. But then you have a reaction from people who come from, I don't know, the Rust Belt, where factories were, and these people are pissed because of this.
There's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of anger there, and it's not only in the US too, but in Europe as well. In Japan, it doesn't seem like there's as much anger. China. No, it doesn't seem like the Asian countries deal with it as much. There might be ways that I don't understand that they're dealing with it. Uh, but so for the last 7 minutes or so, I'm really liking this idea of using Kleros. Um, and so I was thinking you just said a great use case, which is to adjudicate employment contracts. So that sounds like something I could do. But then I got the idea. I'm doing AI coding now, so I'm now building applications, and the primary thing that's really helped me do this is Claude MCP servers that you download Anthropic to Claude, and now it codes for me. It can go into my computer and do things for me. But there's a problem, which is that I'm not technical. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know how to evaluate it. There's too much complexity there. And I get stuck in what people are calling the valley of death or something like that for when the coding just keeps on doing probabilistic things, the AI just keeps on doing probabilistic things, and you get into this loop. And all that to say is that I've got a problem right now. The AI can't solve it. I want to put a bounty inside of our AI coding group so that I can have somebody, I want to pay them so that they can help me get the code review, point me to exactly the problem, and then see if I can take that and use AI to solve it. And so it sounds like you know a lot about bounties. Any suggestions to make it really specific?
I would have to think a bit about that. Yeah, let me get back to you on that.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah. What have you like, regardless of this question, are you running bounties? Like, how do you run your development teams? Yeah,
No, I mean, the team is
all
based
full-time?
of contractors, but they are stable
Yeah. Oh,
contractors. So
got it.
it's not that sometimes, when I mean, bounties are good for some things, but maybe not for others, in the sense that we want people to become, familiar with the apps we build. So a contractor, if you just do it like a one-time job, they just do it one time and then they leave. So for some things, some things it's not that way. But then there's lots of many of the Kleros system or apps that are connected to Kleros, like Proof of Humanity, are based on bounties. Proof of Humanity I mentioned before. There is bounty hunters trying to see if submitted profiles are duplicate or AIs. So that is based on bounties. And it's interesting to think, that the Greek system of justice, they didn't have a policeman. I mean, everything was based on private prosecution and bounties. And in the UK in the 18th century, it was the same. We can learn a lot about the future of governance through seeing different models that were used in communities in the past.
And I think you just gave me the keys to the problem I'm trying to solve, is that I'm going to go through the Kleros cases to understand how the bounties are structured, and like have AI do a reading of that so it can kind of help me think about this. But then also you gave me the idea of the Greek legal and UK systems for bounties. I love that it was on bounties. It's so crazy. And I mean, we did that in the Wild West in the United States as well, I guess. We had bounties. Yeah. In the Wild West. Okay, I'm gonna go do that.
If you are interested in that, there is a book called I think the Not So Wild West. It's by a libertarian author that explains how people see the Wild West, as kind of
fantasy,
jungle.
not real.
But there was like institutions of people like libertarian institutions, and it worked in a way that, well, according to that book, there is liberty optimizing, if you want.
Liberty optimizing. Did you just make that up, or is that a real thing that you've heard? Liberty.
No. This is a book. Thing? I know the liberty optimizing I just invented, but the book is I think it's called the Not So Wild West.
Yeah, I got it. I got it saved, but I like the liberty optimizing meme. I might run with that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more about you and Kleros?
Well, I think the best way is to get to me on Twitter at Federico Ast, and Kleros also. I mean, we can share this with the later. And come to our Telegram group. And if you're interested in all legal elements about blockchain and access to justice, and also if you're interested in governance in general, things. We are also doing that type of research. And also, if you are interested in like the real world applications of Kleros, I think that Kleros has the, privilege of being one of the very few blockchain applications that is actually solving real life problems, which are not financial. So this is something that is, I think I sometimes say that Kleros' success is also a way to legitimize most of the blockchain industry in the eyes of everyday people who actually understand what Kleros does, right?
Yeah.
So we'll leave you with that thought.
I love it. Thank you so much.